On my previous video, I received a comment from Colin Campbell 8178 who said, "That sucked. Better to learn some harmony and create yourself." And I want to sincerely thank Colin for his comment, and I mean that because it's prompted me to make this video, which I was always going to make for the channel, but it's just brought it to the front of the queue. And so in this video, I'm going to do two things. One, hopefully prove Colin wrong that I do understand the concept of harmony. And two, teach you guys enough so that you can use melody and harmony to create something like this. In this harmony tutorial, which is really aimed at beginners, I'm going to explain a couple of very simple, basic music theory concepts. Don't worry, I'm not going to get too complicated, but I'm just going to give you enough so that you can understand the difference between melody and harmony. We're going to explore a very simple melody on the guitar and the piano, and then we're going to write a harmony structure to support that, and then we're going to just tweak that harmony structure oh so slightly and hear the very big impact it has on the emotional feeling of the song. Stay with us. Hey, Troy Dean here from The Music Nerd, where we help you enjoy more music. And in order to understand harmony and why it's so important, there's a couple of concepts that you need to understand about basic music theory. I'll try and keep this very simple so that you can follow along. The first concept is that each song that you hear has a key that determines the notes that you're allowed to play in that song. Now, there are many ways to break and bend this rule, and I'll make other videos about that in the future, about key changes and how you can play notes that are not in the key of a song. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to show you very simply a song that is in the key of C major. And so if we're in the key of C major, the notes that technically we're allowed to play are all the white notes on the piano. And so those notes are C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, just like this. The second important concept you need to understand is that within a key, there are typically 7 chords that you're allowed to play in that key. And I'll make other videos explaining the difference between the chords you're allowed to play in a major key versus a minor key, but for the purpose of this exercise, let's stay in the key of C major. The chords that you're allowed to play in C major are C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished, and of course again C major, and they sound like this. All right, so now that we understand that we're in the key of C major and that we're allowed to play all the white notes on the keyboard and that we can play those 7 chords, which you will have noticed just incorporate the white notes on the keyboard, let's play a simple melody so that we can build a harmony around it. Now, the melody I've chosen is My Girl by The Temptations. You'll recognize this as the opening riff of the song, and it sounds like this. All right, now that we have the melody down, let's just play the 7 chords in the key of C major underneath that melody so that you can hear how each of those chords impacts the melody and how it relates to the melody. So we've got C major, then we've got D minor and E minor, we've got F major and G major, and then we have an A minor and a B diminished, and we'll finish again with the C major. Here it is. Okay, so if you listen to that closely, you'll notice that the C major, the F major, and the G major sound like happy kind of pop tunes with that happy melody repeating over the top and those major chords kind of sounds like a nursery rhyme or happy birthday or any happy kind of pop song you've heard on the radio. The minor chords give it a little bit more of a tense feeling, and they're not quite as happy. They're a little tense or a little sad, if you like. What I want to do now is I'm going to play the melody on guitar, and we're actually going to build as if a band was playing this. So I'm going to lay the melody down on guitar first, and then I'll come back and I'll play the harmony just using two of the chords that we've discovered in the key of C major. So here's the melody on guitar. Okay, now we have the melody down on guitar, and yes, I attempted to make it sound a little bit like a 60s guitar line with some reverb and delay there, you may have noticed. I'll make other videos about the gear I'm using and the plugins I'm using here, but for the purpose of this exercise, I just want to get a band kind of jamming behind that melody, and we're just going to use two chords from the C major scale, from the C major key. We're going to use C major and F major. I'll make another video at some point about the numbering of the chords, but just know that that is chord number 1 and chord number 4 in the key of C major. Very, very common chords that are used in pop and rock music. It's a very common interval going from the first chord to the fourth chord of a key. You'll recognize it. It'll feel very familiar. So here's the melody just bouncing between the C major and the F major of the C major key. Here it is. Okay, not bad. It sounds pretty happy. That's kind of how pop music and a lot of rock and roll starts out. It's a melody, it's a chord progression. We put some vocals over it, we produce it, it turns into a song. But what happens if we just add one more chord from the C major key, from the key of C major, and I want to add the A minor here. The reason I want to add the A minor is because it's the 6th chord in the key of C major. It's called the minor 6th, and adding the minor 6th to the 1st and the 4th is a very common pop music and rock music chord progression. So I just want you to hear now how this melody changes and how the feel of this song changes just by adding the A minor to that chord progression. Check it out. Okay, so it gets a little darker. We started off on the C major and the F major, then we went to an A minor, and it gets a little dark. There's a little bit of tension there, a little bit of emotion. There's something not quite right, and that's because we're playing different notes in the chord, but the melody hasn't changed. All we've changed is one note in the chord. Instead of playing a C major, which is C, E, G, we're playing an A minor, which is A, C, E. We've just changed that one note from a G to an A, and the intervals between the notes in the chord and how that chord supports the melody completely changes the emotional vibe of the song. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the 5th chord of the key of C major, which is a G major. I'm going to add that at the end. So now we're going to go from a C to an F. We're then going to do the A minor, F, C, and then right at the end of this progression, you'll see I add a G major. I'll put the chords up on the screen so you can see it. And the G major really is the final resolution of this chord progression. You could kind of imagine that this might be the end of the song, okay? So check it out. Now, if that sounds familiar, it's probably because most of the pop and rock music that you've heard since the 1960s follows this chord progression. Not all of it, but a lot of pop music and rock music that you've heard on the radio and that you hear on Spotify these days. The 1, the 4, the minor 6, and the 5 within any key. You can take the 1, 4, 5, 6 of any key. I would encourage you to do some research on the internet, have a look at the 1, 4, 5, 6 or different combinations of those 4 chords in any key. If you can learn those in C major, G major, D major, A major, E major, you learn those chords, you can play a lot of rock and roll songs and a lot of pop songs from the 60s right through to now. You'll also notice at the end of that piece there, I added a little guitar arpeggio where I'm literally just spelling out the notes of the chords that are being played. So I'm spelling out the C major, the F major, the A minor, and at the end I'm spelling out the G major. All I'm doing is playing the 3 notes within the chord. The only change I made is the first time round I played a C major and I finished on a C major 7th, just because it's a nice variation that keeps these things interesting. And again, that harmony, that harmonic change playing the C major 7 affects the melody and the way that you feel about what it is you're hearing. So I think I've made my case. Colin Campbell, thank you for leaving a comment on my YouTube video. And I sincerely mean that. I'm not trying to be a smart ass here. I really sincerely appreciate the feedback. It's prompted me to make this video now and to put it out now. Harmony is very important. Melody, in fact, is nothing without harmony. Melody is just an idea. Harmony is when 2 notes interact with each other and start to form some kind of feeling and vibe from what it is you're listening to. If you want to have a listen to some fantastic vocal harmonies, just check out anything that Crowded House have put out when Neil and Tim Finn are singing harmonies. The classic song that really showcases their harmonies is probably Weather With You. It's a beautiful song. It's a great happy pop song. They sing a lot of the song in a 2-part harmony. So Neil singing one part and Tim singing a very similar melody but different notes, and it creates this beautiful vocal harmony, and the interplay between their 2 voices is just absolutely sublime. So check that out. Hey, I'm Troy Dean from The Music Nerd. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please like, share, subscribe, and until next time, enjoy more music.